Not having boundaries can actually be quite scary. Imagine you applied for a new job, walked into the office, and they said, do whatever you want, we don't mind. That was actually quite frightening for most people. So when you set some boundaries, people know what the limits are, they know what they're supposed to do, and they also have an idea of what the consequences might be if they overstep that boundary. So setting those boundaries early in a child's life are really, really important. Once they hit that age of 12 or 13, what's going to happen is their frontal lobes of their brain are going to kick in. They actually have the capacity to start forecasting forward. They should have some ideas of safety behaviours, for example. They should have some ideas of this might happen if I do that. So it's a good age to start, I suppose, letting them go out a little bit further, doing a few things, having a discussion beforehand about what the expectations are and what the consequences might be if those expectations are not met, but also giving them a little bit of room to negotiate as well. Now, that doesn't mean that you just give in. It's really important to maintain those boundaries. But at the teenage age, it's a really good point to start explaining the rationale behind those boundaries. So you don't just have a rule, you should have a reason for that rule. And really having that conversation with your teenager is tremendously important at this age. And be willing to walk back perhaps from your original position. Your teen might actually have a really good rationale. And if that's the case, you should reward that rationale. That's good critical thinking, and we want that to continue. We've worked with the teen, we've been positive, we've done our best, but hey, look, things sometimes go wrong. I guess sometimes there does have to be a consequence. So try and match the consequence with what the boundary violation actually was, rather than just a sort of a general, I'm going to take off your phone, or I'm going to take off your pocket money. It doesn't actually sort of hit the problem. So if the teen stayed out too late, well, the message they're sending is that I cannot be trusted to make my decisions while I'm out and about. So you could actually say, I'm sorry, you're not able to go to parties for another 4 weeks or so until we can be sure that you can actually have the maturity to get yourself home on time. Come up with a consequence that is actually a natural consequence, almost a form of natural justice from the boundary that was violated in the first place. Teenagers, adolescents, it is a time of exploration. It is a time of boundary testing. They actually should be doing this. It's developmentally normal. And although it's incredibly frustrating, it is the role of parents just to make sure that what they're setting up here is a really good learning environment about boundaries. That is a life lesson that will help them push forward.